Every year, thousands of people visit Fort Cooper State Park. They come for the clear waters of Lake Holaflekaha, the quiet trails, and the kind of stillness that feels untouched. It looks like peace, but this place wasn't always quiet. Because beneath these oaks and along this shoreline lies a story of desperation, endurance, and a war that refused to end. This ground was once the site of a brutal 16-day siege. A few hundred soldiers, many sick, many wounded, trapped inside a hastily built wooden fort, holding off a determined force of Seminole warriors fighting for their home. This is the story of Fort Cooper, and the moment when survival was the only victory left. Our story begins with a single decision. In 1830, President Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act. Its purpose was simple. Its consequences were devastating. Native tribes across the Southeast were ordered to leave their homelands and move west. In Florida, this meant the Seminole. Years earlier, the Treaty of Moultrie Creek had already forced them into a shrinking reservation, but pressure from settlers never stopped. The Seminole people, descended from Creek refugees and others, had built a life here in the swamps, forests, and highlands of Florida, and they refused to leave it behind. By 1835, resistance had a name: Osceola. Then came December. In one of the most devastating early blows of the war, Seminole warriors ambushed and killed 108 U.S. soldiers in what became known as Dade's Massacre. That same day, Osceola killed Indian Agent Wiley Thompson at Fort King. The war had begun. The Second Seminole War would become the longest and most expensive war the United States ever fought against Native Americans. And it would not go the way anyone expected. We walked these trails with no walls around us, no sense of danger, just two dogs pulling us forward like it was any other day. And maybe that's what makes places like this so powerful, because the past doesn't announce itself. It waits for you to notice. In 1836, General Winfield Scott arrived in Florida with a plan: 5,000 troops, multiple columns, a coordinated push to trap the Seminoles in a region known as the Cove of the Withlacoochee. On paper, it looked perfect. In reality, it unraveled. The terrain swallowed supply lines. Disease spread. The Seminoles refused to fight on anyone else's terms. Scott's army moved through the wilderness exhausted, disoriented, and constantly harassed. By early April, he faced a new problem: too many sick and wounded soldiers, and nowhere safe to leave them. So he chose a bluff overlooking Lake Hulatlakaha. There he ordered a defensive position built. Command fell to Major Mark Anthony Cooper. His orders were simple: hold for 9 days, wait for relief, survive. Then Scott marched away toward Fort Brooke, leaving Cooper and roughly 380 men alone. Imagine it. You're sick, exhausted, deep in hostile territory, and now you have to build your own protection. The men worked fast, cutting pine, raising walls, forming a square stockade with a central blockhouse and a single 6-pound cannon. For 2 days, silence. Then they were found. Seminole warriors, likely numbering several hundred, appeared in the trees. Among them, Osceola. The siege had begun. For 16 days the attacks came, not as one overwhelming charge, but as constant pressure. Gunfire from the tree line, movement in the shadows, a war of patience. The Seminoles understood something crucial. The soldiers were running out of time and supplies. Inside the fort, food dwindled. Ammunition was rationed. The 9 days came and went. No relief. But Cooper didn't wait to be worn down. Instead, he made a risky decision. He sent his men out. Short, aggressive sorties, pushing beyond the walls, striking, then retreating. It was a bold move. And according to Scott's later report, Cooper's command was the only one in the campaign to take offensive action outside their defenses. By the end of the siege, around 20 men were wounded. Only one, Private Zadok Cook, was killed. Against the odds, they held. Stories like this don't always make it into textbooks, but they shaped the land we walk on. If you want to keep uncovering the forgotten places and the stories buried within them, make sure you're subscribed. There's a lot more out there waiting to be remembered. On April 18, 1836, the 16th day, relief finally arrived. Scott returned with reinforcements. The siege was over. The site was named Fort Cooper, but the war continued. The conflict pushed the Seminoles further south, deeper into the Everglades. And though the war officially ended in 1842, without a formal peace treaty, some Seminoles never surrendered. They endured. They survived. Today, they are known as the Unconquered People. The fort itself didn't last. Wood returned to earth. Time erased the walls, but not the memory. The land became a state park in 1970 and was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1972. Today, markers trace where the fort once stood. A replica corner hints at its shape, and the Seminole Heritage Trail tells the story from the other side, the side that refused to disappear. Fort Cooper doesn't look like a battlefield anymore. It looks like peace. But peace can be deceptive, because places like this remember. They remember endurance. They remember loss. They remember a people who refused to leave, and a war that never truly ended. And if you listen closely, the silence here isn't empty. It's carrying everything that came before.